trust that his seed would grow, he'll plant it and cultivate the earth and drop the seed. But at that point, it's out of his control when it comes to what causes that seed to grow. Because for us to just reflect on the power of Allah, we cannot cause the ground to divide itself when water is put on it. And we don't know what happens to how that seed, after placed in a certain position, is nurtured by that earth. So that earth has a special place in the development of that seed for growth. And in so doing, when we put the seed, because our intent is just to get the harvest. Sometimes it's like open the door, we want to get somewhere. But knowing how to get there and what transpired in getting from point A to B is what is kind of housed in that second verse, where it says, praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the world. Because just placing the seed in the ground has proven to be not sufficient if we didn't know what next takes place in order to be a successful gardener. So when the seed is placed in the ground and the trust, as we say our prayers, oh Allah, bless me with a healthy crop so that I can feed families, friends, and ourselves. So we cultivate the ground, we work the earth, and then the nature of the earth that Allah had already created in the earth when the seed is placed in trust in the ground. And we water that area. Then Allah takes over. He have already created in the earth a nature for things to take place. And in so doing, we don't witness it. Now they have technology where they could now witness certain growth, but when we bury that seed in the ground and water it, we have a trust that, okay, this is how it's done, and we hope and pray that something comes up from that. Well, in here, the very second verse in Al-Fatiha, to open up our mind, that it's the Creator that nurtures everything, even our desires of what we want of good. So as we plant the seed and put it in the earth takes over. You know, those of you who studied biology, we hear that once the seed is in that, over a period of days, it started to swell because of the other element we added to it, the water. We had no control of the nature of the water. We just studied what Allah had put before us. And so when that water and the earth combine itself with that seed, something wonderful takes place. And in time, it will reveal itself. But we had did our part in just planting the seed, putting the seed in the earth. And by the way, I'm not going to go through the whole process of how this seed breaks loose and grows. It's just to show you that we have no control outside of a limited control by placing the seed in the ground, cultivating the earth. But once it's hidden from view, then the nature that is in the earth and in the water that Allah has created, because it says that He's the sustainer and the cherisher of all the world. And our plant life, whether we know it or not or want to recognize it, is a world in itself. And it's a world designed to help protect us and feed us. In so doing, to make a long story short, Allah causes the earth and the other elements of the earth, like the sun and the water, to help germinate that seed that calls growth. And as that seed grows, we all of a sudden go back out and look in the garden and say, oh, there's something green, something coming up. It's different from the little seed that we put in there, because now the seeds look like it's showing its glory. It comes out with its arms up. giving praise and thanks. And I just wanted that little point to be brought before you because I know in your own mind you could take it further. And in that third verse, it reminds us that it's Allah who's the most gracious. And remember, this is Al-Fatiha, the opening up of our minds to see the power and the blessing of the Creator. And He's the most merciful. And in the fourth verse, because it teaches us that it is Allah who is the master of the day of judgment. See, a lot of us see, and I'll just take a little pause, like this current event that we're going through, called the coronavirus, a virus that couldn't be detected by the naked eye without the agency of the electronic microscope. But after discovering it, what has really came and infiltrated the lungs of a person and causing that person great pain, Allah shows us that even the things that we don't see, He still have control over it. And in so doing, the scientists, the people that's very concerned, is beginning to wake up to say, this is something different than we thought that we would be getting into. And the way the announcement came was very vague, and we didn't know. We heard of Ebola, the flu, and everything, but of the past, those different viruses. But this particular one seemed to get the attention not only in a local locality, but all over the world. And in this verse, it also is a challenge for us to call on the one that we claim to have faith in, to know that that virus won't really master us. Only Allah could master this creation. Now, it will affect us, but it's to give us a sense of thought and appreciation that, oh Allah, call on Allah, because He's the master of the day of judgment. And this seemed to be a judgment according to how mankind had lived his life. And what I'm saying, these viruses is not just by accident. It's something that we have done into the environment that caused a certain alteration. We didn't know the effect, but because of carelessness and because of sometimes disrespecting the nature of the purity of how things have been brought for us, the water, the atmosphere, the plant. And then if we take it upon ourselves to pollute the sea, to send rockets and bombs off into the water, and we don't stop to think of its consequence. Sometimes I say we, meaning that mankind, being blessed with intelligence to see, he may have the ability to do this, but he should also look at the repercussion, the consequence of his action. And so, this fourth verse it says, but Allah is the master of the day of judgment. And in order for us to have the strength we need, as we discussed in the last time we had the Jummah, is that Allah reminds us to call on Him throughout all periods of panic, so that we know that if you keep the faith and you do what is obedient by saying the prayer, helping each other, then it says, therein will be peace. Therein will be justice done. And that justice is that Allah give you peace through all these periods of panic. And right now we can see whenever we turn on the TV or listen to our news on the phone, it's speaking of how this pandemic is growing. But in order for us, the believers, whether we Muslim, Jews, Christian, or any other religion that I might not name, but believe in a power far greater than themselves, that one power. It says, for us, it says, thee do we worship, speaking of that oneness in this creation. Thee do we worship, and your aid we seek. So show us the straight way, because right now, there are hundreds and probably thousands of people looking for a cure for this particular disease. And Allah knew this was coming. See, mankind through his carelessness might do anything and ignore the consequence. And that's not hard to grasp, because sometimes in our own family, we'll do a thing, and then before we know it, we wonder why it creates a disturbance. Well, if we would just go back and check out our behavior, then we can get an inkling or a clue to what brought about this easement. And right here, it is a reminder for believers. It says, thee do we worship, and your aid we seek. Oh Allah, show us the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, those whose portion is not wrath and who go not astray. Now, think about that. We have different countries always sending missiles, doing them tests, and they got the land somewhere, on the land or in the water. And in the land, there's a multitude of life forms, and not really taking heed of the impact of those great missiles and how it can affect the ecology of the earth. And even when those missiles and things land in the water, that water which has been used to nurture us, to help us, because every living thing has some traces of water, and us, we have a lot of water in it. And then if we ignore the power and the nature of what Allah has even blessed us with, the ability to think, so we come up with the brilliant idea of coming up with these missiles and forget that the other flip side of that is not only is this used to create a deterrent against rivals and things, but how it can be a deterrent to good health for all humanity. So sometimes this is just a way of looking at, even starting off in the Quran, where Allah is teaching humanity to think before we act and before we react to our consequence, and to be more appreciative of the greatness that Allah put before us, because it's not by accident we be blessed to come up with all these scientific innovations to do things with. It's just like your home, your house, the chairs you're sitting on, the microphone I'm speaking on. It wasn't just by accident. Allah created in the human being ability to think, because we were blessed to have a leader in Imam Wafdi Muhammad, may Allah's mercy and peace forever be with him and me. He will warn him the promise of the righteous. That's paradise. When he was teaching us some simple concept that had a great impact on our thinking. Just like dust. You know, we sometimes take dust for granted. But he took that one subject of dust, and he wanted to teach it. He said, well, I'm going to tell you about from dust to industry. And he was showing you how dust by itself, when the wind blows, it'll carry that dust anywhere. But he was using dust as that which makes up the earth. And how if mankind would utilize what Allah blessed them with, his five senses, his eyes, his ears and nose, to look off into creation and extract from creation some of the things that is there for our utility. And when I say utility, the ability to construct a world for ourselves. It's just like this microphone. It's this iron. This microphone didn't just grow up as a microphone. What grew up is when Allah caused that little sperm cell to grow and develop into a human being, then take on another growth, that inquisitive nature, to find out what's around in his environment. And in so doing, he investigates. He becomes more scientific. And Allah blesses him to extract from those rocks iron ore, so he could construct something like a microphone. And that's just one thing, the automobiles, the different, the watches you may be wearing, the clothes, where Allah has blessed us to see how he's the cherisher and sustainer of all these worlds, how he can grow our mind to expand, to take dust and come out with what the Imam was trying to get us to see, industry. And in that industry, it's like the sunlight. The sun shines on the good and the bad. Well, the industry not only can help that individual, but can help all the communities surrounding that individual. Not only just himself and his family, like the industry of transportation, the industry that produces institutions of learning. Now we have all kinds of institutions of learning. Earlier learning, people would set out among the stars and contemplate and think about all of these wonderful things that's out here. But then Allah even caused it to go even further. Not only were they philosophers, they become inventors of looking at the earth and finding out that in the earth there are things that they can do to the earth that can be a utility. And all Allah has put in us, our whole body cries out just to say, thank you, Allah. We say, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. But even more so, we say it, and then we have to show appreciation for what Allah has blessed us with. And when we can show appreciation for what Allah blessed us with, then more good comes from that. Because, like you can hear my thought, then as Allah blesses you with a spiritual insight, then you can see where that reasoning is going to. But first, sometimes things are unseen, and you have to have faith in it, because some geologists can look at a rock, and the common person can look at the rock, and they'll see different things. And if Allah blesses the one who have studied that rock and said, oh, maybe I can extract from it something useful. Because sometimes we take for granted all these things that are around us. It's not by accident. Allah knew what was in his creation for mankind. And it's so much that we can go on for lectures and lectures concerning how Allah blesses different messengers to come at different times to help strengthen our level of reasoning. Like Imam worked Imam. Just think about that. From dust to industry. How he showed us, sometimes we look at the vastness of the rocks and the dirt and just see it. Or the farmer may just see the ability of growing the fruit or the tree. Then he blesses another human being to see that from the tree you can get lumber and develop homes. It goes on and on and on. So it is definitely a real reason. It is not for just show and tell. It's a reason why we learn to say, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Because we want to thank Allah for blessing us, for creating us in this capacity to show thanks and give praise to Allah. And it opens up our mind to even give greater things as we learn to do greater things. And all of that and more, much more. That was just a brief, very brief introduction to that surah called Al-Fatiha, the opening up to the religion, the opening up to our mind. And then when we learn that a lot of members have said it's deen, opening up to the deen. And then they say deen al-fiqh, that religion that's based in nature. Well, there's a true science to that. Because once we understand the nature of things, then we can get a better benefit. And we can better know how to protect ourselves from the elements and how to even use the elements that are help us. Like that lightning bolt is full of electricity. But Allah created in man the power not just to fear, but how to harness even electricity. That sun, and especially around here in Arizona, they speaking of harnessing the power of the sun. Well, let's look at who can harness and what instrument do you need. Well, Allah gave equality to all humanity to have that instrument. That instrument is your brain. And having the base, and then Allah blesses those that put trust in Allah's creation and the nature and how He set up this creation to become more scientific with it. He blesses them to explore, to challenge their thinking to see how best the creation can help serve man. So, brothers and sisters, I just wanted you to see that even if we take that one surah, the opening of the chapter, it means more than just the opening to the book. It's a purpose. It has a reason. And I'm here to share with you the thankfulness that we have an opportunity, even to come before you, to try to express some of the reasoning that's in the Quran. That is not the end of it. It says in this Quran, if all the trees on the earth were ink pens, and all the oceans were ink, and we were to add even 7 more oceans to it, it said never could we exhaust the wisdom of Allah. So I'm not trying to impress you thinking that, oh, look what I can see. No, because Allah created everyone with 2 eyes, but one vision to appreciate where it all came from. And so I just wanted you to think about that, because in the weeks coming and pretty soon we have the opportunity, inshallah, to observe a Ramadan where we can really focus, get a greater focus as we read and study the Quran and share it. And the first person I think you should share it with is yourself. We should learn to practice what we preach. And then so practicing what we preach for the sake of Allah, it'll improve ourselves as an individual. Because we can't claim fame to greatness. Because we didn't even know we would be created like this. And after learning how the Creator put us together, and you really appreciate it, you can't help but say, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. So brothers and sisters, in the first portion of our khutbah or lecture, to give a brief introduction to the power of Allah, even in the scripture or the revelation, as it's called, that which Allah reveals upon the hearts and minds of people so that they can benefit. And I use the term people deliberately because sometimes we may think that as a label, whether it be Muslim, Christian, or Jew, that this is just for us. No, Allah is not selfish, and He's shown us in the signs in this creation. Like the sun shines on both the good, the bad, the ugly, and it gives resources to all. So with that, I conclude the first part as I came before you in giving you the greetings of peace and paradise. As-salamu alaykum. Again, brothers and sisters, I want to greet you with the greetings of peace, of Assalamu alaikum. And in the second portion, like I say, I'll try to give a few announcements, but the more important thing I hope to convey in the second portion is how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prayed to Allah. And if we are to see that we are to live the example of Prophet Muhammad as an example, a role model, then just bear with me just for a few more minutes to show you how he prayed to Allah. And we are blessed to have a book, the Quran, that verifies the character of Prophet Muhammad. And in the Sunnah, there have been many Muslim scholars that came before us to tell us about the characteristics of Prophet Muhammad. Even our teacher here, Imam Muhammad, may Allah's mercy and blessing be upon all the righteous. And he shared with us, it's a book that he have written, and it was called, and it is called, Prayer and Al-Islam. And he decided to give us some insight on how the Prophet prayed to Allah. One such prayer, he said, O Allah, endow us with your love and with the love of deeds, which let us be close to your love. O ever-living, O self-subsisting, of your mercy we appeal to, your mercy for help in abundance. Set right all of our affairs, and entrust us not to ourselves, even for the twinkling of an eye. For if you entrust us to ourselves, you in fact entrust us to the risk of weakness, faultiness, sin, and offense. O Allah, nothing is easy save that which you make so, and you make the difficult easy, whensoever you like. There is no God except Allah, the forbearing, that magnanimous. There is no God but He. the master of the greatest throne. O merciful of merciful, we ask of you the qualities which make us eligible for your grace. And we ask you for your firm forgiveness and for the opportunity to win from every act, to be saved from every sin, and to win paradise and safety from hell. Don't let us sin unless you forgive it. O merciful of mercy, remove worries. O merciful of merciful, and fulfill all my wants, which meet your pleasure. O Allah, plan for us and do not plan against us. And O Allah, increase us and decrease us not, and choose us rather than choose against us. Brothers and sisters, that shows us the humbleness of the prophet. He was called the seal of the prophet. But listen to how he cried out to Allah for help. It was put there for us to see that we have to do the same in our prayers. Sometimes we include others. We may not know it. When we recite, "O Allah, bless Muhammad and bless the followers of Muhammad," taking the word Muhammad to mean praiseworthy, that can go through all the religions, one worthy of praise. It includes Ibrahim, Jesus, Moses, all of the prophets. And we make no distinction, because if they delivered the truth, that truth is continuous, and we make no difference. But it's just showing that as we say our prayer, and then we say, "Oh Allah, as you blessed Abraham and the followers of Abraham, for surely you are all praised and magnified." Then we say, "The Lord of all the world." Even that plant that we were speaking of in the first portion, Allah is the one that caused it to grow. It's just a sign in that we drop one seed and Allah brings up much more. There's a sign in the ear of corn, where one little seed of the corn we place, and Allah blesses that corn to give fruit. Maybe 3 years of corn with about 100 little seeds. It just shows you that the power of Allah, how He returns good, and the bounty of Allah is unlimited. And all we did is plant one seed, but you see how He rewards man. If we would just do the good deed, Allah can bless us in so many ways that we don't even know. Even in our own family, when our children see mom or dad going out to work trying to help them, or mom and dad protecting them from the harms and for other things that could distract them or cause them to do something destructive. Then later on in life, that child reflects and says, "Oh, now I see." Well, even prior to that, there was, like discussed in the last book, Lukeman, the wife, and what he told his son. He said, "Oh, my son, keep up prayer and be charitable," trying to let his own son know that these are the favors of Allah, that you can win the paradise if you do it for the sake of Allah. And so here we are faced right now today with a virus. And we have instruction from the leaders, the governors, and other civic and government leaders as well as in your household to be careful. Those that heed the warning seem like they benefit, but those that neglect it or try to come up with a reason why they shouldn't listen, they usually suffer the consequence. And it's nothing new. It's just like right now, this is just a reminder for us to pray. Not only, oh Allah, save my family. No, we have to save humanity. We have to save the good in humanity. What I mean, you have a lot of people walking around, but they lost their humanity. They lost the moral fiber that keeps them in that honorable position as mom, dad, or father, sister, brother, cousin. So we have to return to those good graces that Allah has put there for us. And for those believers who know in Scripture and in the Quran where it says, in which of the favors of your Lord can you deny? See, obedience to good standards, that's a favor so that it helps keep humanity on the proper track. If we can respect each other's properties, if we can respect just sharing with each other, because those are the properties that Allah put in our nature. And knowing that He put it in our nature, it's really not difficult for us unless we put up resistance. Because Allah reminds us, He said, and spend out of what Allah has blessed you with. If it's your health and you're healthy to help someone, you know, we have to look out for our elders. Spend, take time. If it's your family, friends, or if it's like the maintenance and upkeep of yourself, the maintenance and upkeep of our community that we live in. We have to get out there and show that we're willing to put forth some work effort. And then the individuals around us will have an example of us trying to live what we say and not just talk the talk, but to walk the talk that we are saying and to be willing to share with others. And in so doing, we pray that Allah open up our heart and mind to other greater features, like one, establishing education for our children, businesses. Now we know we're in a time now where a lot of things are curtailed for the safety of humanity. This is causing us to reflect and think. And hopefully we're learning to appreciate the little freedoms that we had when we went out into the world and, as it says, traverse throughout the earth and see what happened to those before you, so that we can learn lessons in life to how to apply to be better. And Allah didn't leave us hopeless or helpless. Because in this book called Quran, it says, it asks humanity a question. It asks mankind a question. It says, does man think he will be left aimless, without any purpose, without hope? See, for us, it's not just reading the scripture, but it's a reinforcement to strengthen us in faith, to grow our faith. And then on top of that, He left us a whole book. And in the book, Allah said, this is the book. And it is guidance, sure, without doubt, to those who fear Allah, who believe in the unseen and are steadfast in prayer. And they are the ones that spend out of what we have provided.